And I'm live. That is pretty cool. Today is 25th of April 2026, Saturday. And let's just begin. And what is the thing that we are going to do today? The thing is, if you go to walrus.codes, shit. You should be greeted with the website, but shit. Github.com. Shit. The website is alive. It is not alive because polling certificate here, and the certificate is literally visible. Hmm. Okay, in simple terms, what is happening is this. I should open Obsidian. Cool. So the workflow is like this. NeoM, like the best editor. I write code on NeoM, like yes, and then a git push onto GitHub, and GitHub has a workflow, and in that workflow we are using, you could say, two things. One is Terraform and the other is Docker. And what happens is Terraform talks to AWS, and if there is an instance running, then pretty cool. But if there is no instance running on AWS, then Terraform starts an instance, like starts the instance, installs Docker, and also does some configuration on that new started instance. And that is what Terraform does. And then also the IP address of this new instance is also available for this workflow. Anyone in any part of code inside this workflow has access to this IP address. So that is pretty cool. And since the IP address is now known from the AWS, Terraform is like pretty cool. Terraform also can talk to the DNS service and changes walrus.codes to point to this new IP address. So that is like pretty cool. And then using Docker, we create the whole new images of the code that we just made. And these new images are pushed by Docker to Docker Hub. And then this workflow SSHs into the instance, AWS instance that we just created, and pulls these new images and restarts them. So that is pretty cool. Now the thing that we want to do is also use Terraform to get an HTTPS certificate. And we are able to get an HTTPS certificate. The only problem that we have to solve now is how to get this certificate. And there are two things in the certificate itself and a private key, which should not be shown. Yep, there is a certificate which is public. Anyone can see or look at the certificate. But then there is also a private key which is used to sign this certificate and verify that the person you are talking to is the person that you are talking to. So cool. And these two things should go to this AWS instance. And that is the part that is messed up a little bit. We have to fix that part. Hello. Yep. Yo, shit. You are doing some stalking war and stuff. There are some other videos coming. Yep, there will be more videos where that came from. But shit. And right now, name.com or the DNS service does not point to the latest IP because there are some. Yep, yep. Because the workflow is not working. Yeah, because we are trying out some different stuff to put this certificate and private key on the AWS server, and it is broken. We just have to find some way to put out the certificate and private key onto AWS instance, onto our remote AWS machine. This looks like a 9, and yep, like that is the goal of this stream. Still a 9. Shit. Cool. And we have to do this in a way so that we don't make the private key publicly available like this, which is stupid shit. We should not make our private key like echo here like this. So let's see how to do this. Put certificate on remote instance. How to set up Terraform enterprise with the certificate. Okay, use the file provisioner to copy file provisioner. Yes, provide provisioner. I think it should be a provider, but okay. Provisioner to copy the file from your local machine to the instance, often paired with remote exec. Okay, so what they are saying is we can write down the certificate and the key into a file on the GitHub, in the GitHub workflow, and then use, I think SCL is a command we can use, and then there is a command to put files onto remote machines using SSH. We can then execute that command, and to create a file, copy the certificate. Okay, that is cool. That is cool. We can do this when the instance is getting created. That is cool. That is cool. That is cool. That is very cool. We can. Okay, that is very cool. That is very cool. AWS instance web server. When we create, we give in the type and we connect. Right now, what we are doing is we just given the AMI ID, instance type, subnet ID, VPC, sub security group ID, and we are saying yes, give this thing a new public IP address and put this key, this is a variable, put this key as the public key. If you have the private key for this public key, you can SSH into the machine. Cool. And this defines the size, what should be the hard disk size for this, 20 GB. And this user data has a script which runs. Wait, where is? Yep, this script runs when the instance starts. So that is cool. Hello. Yes, 2K4. So when request the repo of mine you forked, make it private. I'm not. Okay, shit. Okay. I mean, okay, that makes sense. I'll make it private live on stream. 72. Guess I have to go there. Dot files. Change visibility. Private. Yes. And passkey. There is a passkey. Yes, there is a passkey. And that is done. Okay, shit, that is cool. That is cool. Your Nginx OS repository is public. I'll be able to talk. Okay. Here, make a connection. Copy the certificate to a temporary location. But before, for this to be possible, we have to write the certificate into a file. Move the certificate to file destination with proper permissions. Sudo move this to that provisional file. Okay, put this file from here to there. Okay, we can put this like directly into Nginx directory. Okay, and what is provisioner? Okay, I think this would work, but before this, we need the certificate inside a file, and for that, we have the certificate as a bash variable, and we want to put that inside a file. I think we don't have to put the certificate as a bash variable. We can use Terraform to put that variable inside a file. Uh, to create a file, and for the content we can give the certificate itself as the content. Resource local file example, that would be the name, file path, and content. That is very cool. Here we are creating certificate. We are creating 3 certificates. This creates the account. This gives us 1 certificate for walrus.codes. This one gives us another certificate for sha.walrus.codes, and this one gives the certificate for the backend. That is pretty cool. And then we are giving them out as variable names. Wait, shit, we are not giving them out as variable names. Output, we are putting them out as output sensitive true. So that is cool. That is cool. It would be even cooler if we change this from output to variable. And I guess instead of, we don't give value here, we give something else. We give default here, and not default equals this. An argument sensitive is not expected here. And Terraform variables may not be used. Variables may not be used. That is fine. That is fine. That is fine. If we look at one thing, this is for walrus.codes, and this is the certificate, and this is the private key. We want to put these things. Let's remove everything else for now, and we want to put these things as files. We can just create a new file, files.file, and resource. cd infra terraform files.tf. The name would be walrus certificate. Local file does not exist. Local file, which provider on Terraform is local file resource. Wait, we are following each other, so you can see from there. But we are following each other on GitHub, so okay, shit. Yep, that makes sense. If I go to, and I guess I can just write your name. It should be here. Yep, it is here. And next dots. Let's go. Yep, I will like. I will probably, I think, do a stream to milk this content. Yep, that would be cool. Yep, using it on the stream. Yep. Cool. And local. Shit, that is the provider we need. Provider is local shit, that is not no, we have to go in the main file. Yep. And here under required you have to say local equals resource hashicorp local and version. Shit, how does Odium know? Odium is pretty fast. Form in it, and this might give error. This does not give errors. Okay, that is pretty cool. Files, let's create. That is cool. That is cool. File permission. Do we want to change? No, permission is fine. Walrus certificate.pem. Okay, that should create a file. That should create a file. That should create a file. Okay, let's see. The name of the file that we want is for walrus, walrus.codes.cert certificate.ts file. Dot cert. Okay. Terraform. Shit. What is the command? Build. Terraform help. It is init plan apply. Yep. Let's destroy everything and then we will make everything. And shit, name.com variables are needed. The token is needed for name.com. Let me copy the token. I will hide my screen. To get the token, I have to go here, name.com, API, dashboard, but shade, login before that. API tokens, and yep, let me hide my screen. Cool, that is done. You can see, and username is that should work. No changes, nothing needs to be destroyed. Okay, Terraform, plan everything, and shit, token is needed. I guess it is still copied. Terraform apply token. That should work. Yep, make it work. This is right now talking to AWS to create these security rules and everything. Okay, shit, ACME certificate. Now that thing created a new account and is now talking to name.com to update the DNS certificate, the DNS records. ACME certificate still creating. Okay, it is now getting the certificate. It already created an account here. Okay, it got the certificate for walrus, for the front end and the back end. Okay, cool. We should see a file. Which we do see. Okay, which we do see. And I do have a few questions about this golden hour thinking. Creating a HTTPS certificate. I get the certificate which is public and it consists of the certificate itself, and it consists of the certificate itself and also the public key of the issuer, which is CA, certificate authority. And I also have a private key which is used to sign and verify that the certificate actually belongs to me. Yep. Beginning of certificate, end of certificate, and if the certificates is here twice, can we say sensitive here? Sensitive content. Share. Okay, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. We can create a file using this. We never have to touch bash. We can just put the whole thing there and don't have to touch bash ever. Outputs.tf yep, eSIM certificate, private key, walrus, and when we get this thing here, we do provide eSIM certificate name.com. Yep, private key. Yep, account private key. We use this private key to communicate. Here on this step, we created an account on Let's Encrypt, and we used a private key to do that, and that gave us a new private key either, or that just the same one that we used to create the account, and later on we use the same key to tell Let's Encrypt to give us certificate for this domain name. That is pretty good. Okay, let's clarify a few things. What is in certificate? The public part. The cert or PEM contains your public key, not the CA's public key. Okay, your identity info, domain name, organization, validity period, etc. The CA's signature, a hash of the above signed, the CA's private key, the CA's identity, who issued but not their key itself. Okay, to verify the certificate, clients use the CA's public key, which they already have bundled in their trust resources. Okay, and your private key. Okay, so that there is the certificate which contains my public key, my identity, who I am, the CA signature and CA's identity, and the client who is here, like my browser in this case, already has the CA's public key and verifies whether this certificate has actually been created by the CA that the provider, which in this case is Cloud AI, is claiming that the CA is. And your private key, you are right that you hold a private key, but its role is specifically during TLS handshake. Your server uses it to prove its own certificate. Yep. So the certificate itself, the browser can verify whether the certificate is valid or not by looking at the signature of the CA on that certificate. And then the private key is used to verify whether the certificate belongs to the individual who is providing the certificate. During the TLS handshake, your server uses it to prove its own certificate by signing a challenge or decrypting something the client encrypted with your public key. So that is pretty cool. It does not sign the certificate itself. It was done by the CA using their private key when they issued it. Okay, so that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. We need to put the certificate and the private key, and the certificate consists of the certificate and the issuer PEM. And why am I putting these two variables side by side? Because that is what was said name.com ACME, I think, provider. That is what was said on the website. Resources, ACME certificate. Yep. They said somewhere that we should use two things. The certificate consists of the certificate itself and the CAs, the certificate authorities key. Private key CSR contains your public key plus identity. CA signs it. Yep. Certificate. You deploy private key plus certificate plus intermediate change. Cool. And I am using Terraform for this, and its ACME provider gives two variables. One is the certificate PEM, and the other is issuer PEM. Issuer PEM, and the final certificate is supposed to be a concatenation of these two. Let's see. Yep, makes sense. Okay, your certificate, public key, domain, yep, and intermediate CA is certificate, the link between your certificate and the root CA. Why concatenate them? When your server presents the certificate during TLS handshake, the client needs to walk up the chain to trusted root CA. If you only serve certificate.pem, the client may not be able to verify it because it does not know the intermediate CA. Okay, so there is a hierarchy. Makes sense, I guess. The join thing would be join this and ACM certificate, walrus certificate PEM, and this, that is pretty cool. Walrus certificate, and that is walrus certificate. We need a few things. Walrus certificate, and walrus key, and the key would not be a concatenation of anything. It would be walrus dot private key ACME dot certificate it private key PEM is that the variable name, private key PEM. Yep, that is the variable name. Cool. So we don't even have to define these outputs. Yep, we don't have to define these outputs here. We are putting these things as files, so that is cool. Okay, walrus certificate and walrus scope. So this part is creating the files that we need to create. These are for walrus.codes, and then these certificates would be for star.walrus.codes. The next ones would be for backend star.walrus.codes, and the auto suggestions are pretty good somehow today. Okay. Walrus.codes is done. Sensitive content, yes, very true. And here, certificate files outputs, remove this certificates. Yep, keep this here. Cool. One is walrus, then the next is sha underscore walrus. Cool. So in this whole thing, substitute walrus with sha underscore walrus. So, codes. Yep, and here the file name should not be this. The file name that is expected is dot e. Can we put a dot in the name here? We cannot. Key for the key, and sha walrus dot codes, but yep, sha dot walrus dot codes. Sha walrus dot codes, the file name sha dot walrus dot codes dot cert, and here walrus dot codes dot key. Cool. That is for backend, and walrus certificate. Here the next one is named backend underscore walrus. Substitute walrus with backend underscore walrus. Okay, these names are fine. We just have to change this sha dot walrus, and here also sha walrus dot cert, and that should create the files that should create the files that we need. That should create the files that we need. Okay, 6 files, 3 are certificates and 3 are and the other 3 are keys. And then we can first of all remove the certificates. Good. And then here, okay, in the GitHub workflow, pull and run. On this step, either we put these files onto the remote instance on this step, or we can do this using Terraform, like this. Not like this, but like this. Connection, AWS instance, web server, create the server, make the connection, then second, copy the certificate to a temporary location, and then there, provisioner, remote, execute these commands remotely on the instance that was created. I think this would be a better approach. This would actually be a better approach instead of doing this thing on every push and pull. These are steps. Check out the latest code, sign in to Terraform, or like get Terraform setup, install Terraform and everything. Make changes if there are any changes. Set Terraform outputs. We don't have to, except for SSH host. That is the only output we have to set up. Go to the Terraform folder and make a variable SSH host equals Terraform output, the public IP address, and remove this, get certificate. Putting certificates, yep, remove this step also. and then actual SSH. SSH, pull the Docker images, which is defined here. Pull the latest images, create network if the network already does not exist, remove the containers if they are running, and then echo backend URL because backend URL is needed here. So we are putting it, using it here as a variable. So that is pretty cool. Or I was just seeing if the backend URL is visible. Hello, sword. It modular. Cool. So now we just have to make some changes on Terraform and nothing on the CI/CD. In Terraform, when the instance is getting created, there are steps for this connection. I don't think we have to put in this connection, but maybe connection. Okay, we can go to the AWS provider on Terraform. Terraform, AWS provider, SG. We are looking for EC2. EC2 image builder, no, EC2, shit. This EC2. And AWS instance under this. Cool. And this has a thing called connection. Shit, these are the only connections it has. But shit, so why are we seeing connection here inside AWS instance? Provisioner. What is provisioner? Provision. Okay, this is a new concept, I think, in Terraform. Provisioner, what is? Use provisioners to perform post apply operations. You may need to upload files, run commands and scripts, and perform other operations to prepare resources, and you create and manage Terraform. Okay, that makes sense. Add a provisioner to your resource. File is a provisioner, copies files or directories from the machine where Terraform is running to a new resource. Okay, that is cool. Local exec invokes and invokes an executable on local machine after Terraform creates the instance. Okay, that is like pretty cool. On the local machine. And remote exec invokes commands on the remote machine. Okay, so we need file, this thing, this provisioner, and remote exec, which are actually here. Like, yep, cool, makes sense. But I don't think we have to provide this connection thing, connection settings for SSH. Let's just not do that and only use provisioner file. File. Okay, like no error, that is a good sign. Hello. Shit, members are coming here. Shit, Walrus and Sindhu. Stop calling me by that name. How many times do I have to tell you? Shit, okay, okay. I'm still learning. Okay, I will remember not call you by that other name. Provision. So, yep, we literally have the file right here. Ports equals dot initial assets. No, that is not the file. The file is dot slash. It is going to be created. Okay, shit, this preview is a bad thing, but you don't see the whole thing, so good enough. Target. Put this in a temporary folder. Okay, let's just see if this is working. Okay, we could put this on in the root folder, but that might lead to permission issues. So we'll just put it inside the temporary folder and we will SSH into the machine and we will see if the certificate is there or not. That would be a cool thing to do. Okay, and Terraform apply. Shit. Shit, I do have to hide my screen and copy the tokens from name.com. Yep, 1 second, more than 1 second though. Cool, done. You can see, cool. Name, username, and shit, provisioner, unsupported block, warning, attribute, deprecated. Which attribute? With this in files, sensitive content, true. That is deprecated. Use local sensitive file instead. Okay, we can do that. What do we have to do? That on all of these. Substitute sensitive content with local file sensitive. Terraform apply, and shit, this would again ask for the token. Let me just copy it again. Name.com. Just 1 second. Token and copy. And shit, I messed up. I closed the browser itself. Wait. Do you study maths? No, right now I want to finish this website. That would be cool. We can study maths when the maths exam is there. We can study maths together. Okay, and shit, provisioner, local file sensitive is not expected here. Local, so what was the thing that they suggested? Local sensitive file, not local file sensitive. Substitute file underscore sensitive with sensitive underscore file. Okay, and provisioner, provisioner. Provisioners, local exec, remote exec, and file. Connection block is necessary for remote exec and files to establish SSH. Okay, we do have to give an connection block. And what are the things that we have to give in inside connection? Type, user, private key, and host. SSH user Ubuntu. Type of connection, user is Ubuntu, and private key is not available here like this. Shit, private key is not available anywhere. Private key is available as a GitHub secret on GitHub, and since this will run on GitHub, public IP, what Terraform does is it takes up variables which start with the prefix Terraform underscore var variable. So if we create this as a variable private key as such, and we say sensitive equals true, type is string, variable sensitive, why is it giving error, protect variables, git clone. Wait, Terraform has a GUI, that is cool. Sensitive equals true, sensitive equals true, variables.tf, sensitive equals true. Description sh private key for the AWS instance. ECM server URL, AMI ID, sensitive, why is this LSP? The LSP that is giving error is called Terraform. I think it might not be updated. When did Terraform introduce sensitive variables? 2020, and the LSP that I am using Terraform LSP. How old is this? If it is older, then that would be a problem. How do we see the date for this LSP, Terraform LSP? That is the thing. These are the platforms for which it is available. Version is like not even version 1. Home page for this LSP, and yes, this was last updated 4 years ago. That would be 22. So this should have the private. This should know that variables can be private, and we should not get error there. But okay, like whatever. It is just the LSP that is giving error. Terraform clear and a variable. Yep. The private key should be there as variable. Cool. We have to make a change in GitHub workflow and make the private key available as a variable. Cool. As an environment variable. Okay. Instance connection host key. Cool. And what else do we have to give in here? Connection private key. Private key is not available as a file. It is available as a variable. I think variables dot the name is private key sh. Cool. That is pretty cool. So we gave connection and remote exec, but before remote exec, VISONER. I think the name is spelling is wrong. VISIONER. And it would be cool to put all of this together at some place. Putting the certificates on the instance. Cool. connection provisioner file from this place walrus.codes.cert. Put this file at this place, that is file number 1. Put more files there. This file walrus.codes.cert key, and there are 4 more files to be put there. star.walrus.codes and star.walrus.codes and backend star.walrus.codes and then same backend star.walrus.codes. But shit, the other name also has to change. star.walrus.codes here, star.walrus.codes backend star.walrus.codes. That should work. But shit, the name. This has to be key. This is fine. This has to be key. And this has to be key. Okay, this should put all these files there on the remote instance, and then we can provisioner remote. We can call this and give it some commands to run. Remote exec inline. These are the commands that should run. If we are able to run anything. Shit. Okay. Codium on top. Actually, Codium on top. Copy this file from here and put this here, but I guess that is not the right place where you want to put this. Shit, I removed where the right place is. Where to put in Nginx SSL Nginx certificates. /etc okay, SSL certs. Okay, cool. I think everything is cool here. This will move the certificates to the right place, and from there Nginx will pick them up. Here we are saying for HTTP include the MIME types, and then listen on server 443 SSL for SHA backend. The things are here, the certificate is here, and the certificate key is here. Cool. And the protocol and the forward pass, that is cool. For the front end, do the same thing with the front end certificate. Cool. And then for normal website, the default thing, use this certificate. Cool. And then if there is a HTTP request, change it or redirect it to HTTPS. Cool. This should work. This should like actually work. If we later. Shit, are the messages coming late? I guess they are. Now this should work. Git status. We changed Docker file. We changed a lot of things, and these things make sense. And what? Okay, we don't want to put in these things, the certificates and the keys. cd terraform and docker ignore. Is there a docker ignore file? Git ignore. There is a git ignore file. Anything key or anything that should work. And remove walrus.codes.cert. Okay, git add everything. not added Z in it. cd fix, let's say, git push origin main. That should work. That should work. Wait. Aux. Should I don't know. I don't know what this is. User. Why is this asking for GitHub username? I guess I have to log into GitHub. Somehow I'm not logged into GitHub. GH is GitHub's CLI tool, and auth. GH. GH auth login using github.com, using HTTPS would be cool. Do you? Yes, with my GitHub login with the browser would be cool. And okay, go here. Yep, continue as this. Copy, paste, and almost done. And that is cool. Cool. Okay. And now we can do git push origin main, and that should work. That does work. Okay. And now that will start up CI/CD workflow, which should hopefully work. CD fix. This will first create the images and push them. This takes about 1.5 minutes. And then the next dangerous step, which might break, will run. And I have to go to washroom. I'll be right back in 1 minute, and you can in the meantime just look at the logs. Logs are like cool, and I'll be right back. And I'm back, and this is still creating. Oh shit, this job was completed, and pull and run Terraform changes. If there are any changes in Terraform, it is seeing if whether there are changes, creating the files and everything. Yep. Var shit. Shit. We had to do one thing. We had to shit. Yes, this will shit. SSH private key. Yes, shit. We had to change a line in our workflow, GitHub workflow, and provide the AWS secret key as an environment variable, which we did not do. Update. Okay, there is one mistake. You can fix that easily. Here, environment variable, we just have to add tf var is asking for this private underscore key underscore ssh, and the value is secrets dot what is the ssh private key. AWS access key, which is, I think, different from SSH key. Host SSH key. Yep, it just says SSH key. SSH key. Okay, and that should work. Git add, git commit, cd fix, git push, origin main, and that should work. We can cancel workflow because this will just like never end. Okay, this should not run. Cancel workflow, cancel this, cancel this. Operation cancel. Yep, cool. This thing, and yep, and the images are getting created and pushing. Cool. And in the meantime, we can do a type test. That would be cool. Many people limit themselves. Okay. That was good. Yes, that was fine. That was good. Okay, this is now pushing the images. Almost done. Post check. Yep, cool. Okay, we are on the second step. Not on the second step, but on the second job. This will initialize Terraform. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, Terraform has been initialized. This will make shit. Okay, shit. We got this error because there is a, you could say, mutex kind of log which Terraform creates. Okay, so you do not want multiple Terraform jobs to work at the same time. If two people make the commit on the same time, you do not want two Terraform workflows to write over each other. So to fix that, in here in Terraform, there was a thing, where was it? Networking outputs providers. I think in providers. Nope, not in providers. In main. Yep, in main. Yep. Here we have given a bucket, and there were more things in the bucket. There was also a database. Yep, here. Backend name is S3. So we have told Terraform, we have given it this, you could say, bucket, and the name of the bucket is Terraform DB hello there walrus with F stat. This, there is this bucket on AWS server, and whenever one Terraform job starts, there is, you could say, a single variable which is either on or off, and whenever a job starts, that job looks at this variable. If it is on, then we get this message that Terraform is in a lock state. So yep, and if the variable is off, then Terraform makes that variable true and it starts its whole thing, and then at the end makes that variable back false so that the next job can run. And to fix this, I think we copy the job ID, and there is a command, remove Terraform lock, Terraform force unlock. force unlock. This is not the key. The key is this, and cannot be unlocked by another process. Okay, cd. I guess you have to go to the right folder, maybe. Yep, we did have to go to the right folder. Cool. And now if we don't even have to make a commit and push anything, we can just rerun this job which failed. Rerun failed jobs. Yep, rerun job, pull and run. Yep, this is running. Check out. Setting up Terraform, done. Doing, happening. I'm reading a book on operating systems. Okay, dinosaur book. I read about virtualization, basically making programs think they have the memory and CPU all to themselves. Yep, like a virtual machine. Okay, we got error again. Why unsupported? Pro VISONER. Okay, I messed up with the file name. Okay, that is a big mess. Substitute PROVISONER with PROVIONER globally. Cool. And let's see. Terraform plan is the spelling now right? This name needs the name.com. No, not the dinosaur book. I still don't exactly understand what it means to virtualize. You just said this is what virtualize means. You might not understand the implementation, but the idea is this, what you wrote in the comment. And I have hidden my screen. I have copied the token from the DNS provider, which is in my case name.com. Just 1 second. Cool. Then copied, and the username, that should work. SSH private key for AWS. That I'm just entering random stuff here. Cool. And okay, TARGET, target argon destination is required. Okay, not target but destination. Makes sense. Wait. Instance.tf. In the whole file, substitute target with destination globally. Cool. And now Terraform plan and it just a random key and reference undeclared resource. Local sensitive file equals true is how to declare a file as sensitive in Terraform. Local underscore sensitive underscore file. That is what we are using. Oh shit, that should be a resource, not an argument in a resource. Okay, shit, my bad. Local sensitive file. Local sensitive file. Substitute local file with local sensitive file. Cool. And we have to remove these lines which have the term true in them. For this we can say g global. This is a command, and now we have to match true on these lines. This command. That's the job. Terraform plan and variables private key SSH has not been declared inside the root modules. K has not been declared inside. I think we can make a file out of this thing too. But no. This is provided as an environment variable. This is provided as an environment variable, so we cannot make a file out of this. Wait, what? I also read about something called persistence, and the OS figures out where to write data, keeps journal, changes metadata, talks to the device driver to teach the data in electrical circuits. H. Have it all by themselves. Yes, I think that is what it means to have it all by themselves. Do whatever you want, store whatever you want, and yep, do whatever you want. And in case of virtualization, they think that they have it all for themselves, but when they do step outside their limit, then they do not, and then they get error. They cannot step outside their limits. The error is this, reference to undeclared resource variables. Okay. Var makes sense, not variables. Terraform plan, just random inputs, and cool, that is pretty cool. Permission denied, permission denied, permission denied. That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. And if we plan again, we do not get a log error. We do not get a log error. Cool. Okay, so cd sharp git add, git commit, git push origin main. Cool. That will start up a workflow actions. Hello, hi, I'm new to this channel. How to learn this stuff? We in this stuff I learned basic Linux, but I'm unable to find real-world scenarios like how to solve error or debugging the log files. Can you suggest any resources? For Linux, I think it is just have something in your mind and do whatever you have to put it actually on your laptop. For example, you could say that I want to use Omarkey, then figure out a way to install Omarkey on your machine. And then when you do have Omarkey, you could say, I want to make my terminal look good, then figure out ways to make your terminal look good, just step by step, instead of finding a big resource. But a resource to clear your basics about Linux would be Linux command line book. Yep, the Linux command line. This book is like pretty cool. You can go through this book. It is a pretty cool book. Yep. And let's look at the workflow. It is still running. Yep. Just like get your hands dirty. Try to do different things. Test out things and yeah, FAFO, fuck around and find out. Okay, Terraform has been initialized. Okay, no error so far. It is checking for security groups. Cool. This will remove two outputs. That is cool. Set Terraform outputs. Okay, shit. That is very cool. That is like very literally very cool. Okay, this has SSH'd into the remote machine and is putting resources there, which is very cool, which is actually very cool. Okay, name.com, my domains here. How do we see what is the current IP address? Okay, I made it sensitive. I should not have made it sensitive. Walrus reports. Manage DNS records. And I don't think this is the latest IP address. Yep. This is not the latest IP address. So this is not updating the DNS record. Why is this not updating the DNS record? AP South. Yo, I mean, like, of course. What does it mean? Like, exactly without abstractions, but there should be a limit, right? I don't know what it means without abstractions. Because it is a OS level thing. I don't know much about that, on how much can you store. Yep, there is a limit. If, like, let me show you. I think I open activity monitor and okay, this activity monitor takes some time. OBS, and here OBS thinks that it has virtual memory size. You cannot like see this, pretty cool. Yeah, let's go. Real memory size that OBS is taking right now is this much, and the virtual memory size that OBS thinks that it can take is 400 GB, which is more than the actual size of the whole system. Shared memory size, private memory. So yep, OBS is thinking that it has this much memory, but it does not. That zoom was actually pretty cool. Okay, and sign in as a root user. And passkey. Yep, we have this server running, and shit, okay, the IP address is right. IP address here is the right one. IP address is the right one. Then what is the problem? What is the problem? Why are we not able to go there? The site cannot be reached. Connection refused. Connection refused. SH. I don't use this IP. This is the IP. Yep. And cool. We are in Docker. Yes. Okay. TUI is running. Front end is not running. Docker PSA. Nginx stopped. Why did Nginx stop? Docker logs for Nginx. Prod. Logs for Nginx. Prod. Such file or directory backend. Okay, shit. Slash etc. Let's see. Share cd ls cd sl. Yep, ls cd certs ls, and these are the certificates. And does it have walrus? ls grep walrus, nothing. Walrus is not here. And okay, what was the file where we were putting all these certificates? Terraform when an instance is created. Put the certificates in etc ssl certs walrus.codes, but it is not here. We are inside this same folder, etc ssl certs walrus.codes. Okay, so shit, this thing is not here. The files are not going there. Grep walrus. Okay, find grep walrus. Nothing. Okay, find grep walrus. Is there anything by the name walrus anywhere? Yep. Let's see. So OBS is not stupid. OBS is just accepting what the operating system is telling OBS. OBS is not doubting the operating system. But I do not understand making it think it has so much memory, because it might try to do stuff beyond the limit. Just don't make it think that. It is done. Okay. So when a process starts, it is being told that it has this much, some certain amount of memory, and the address of that memory starts from like the operating system is there. And if I open up OBS, the operating system tells OBS that, let's say you have 2 GB of memory, and okay, and OBS thinks or knows that the starting address of the first bit is 00, like just 00, and the final bit or byte is at the 2 GB mark, right, right here. And whenever OBS tells the operating system that it needs some stuff that is stored at this specific X address, then OBS tells the operating system that I need something from this X address. But the operating system does not know where this X address maps up to the actual memory, to the actual physical memory. This is the virtual memory. This does not exist. This is just what OBS thinks it has. And this is the physical memory. So this X address is then sent to a hardware, like a specific hardware piece. And the name of it was, shit, there is a specific hardware piece which takes in this virtual memory address and gives out the physical memory address. MMU, it is called MMU, Memory Management Unit. And yep, so whenever a program wants to access the RAM, it gives in the address of the virtual memory, and that address is then sent to the MMU, Memory Management Unit, and is translated into the physical memory address wherever it is, and that thing is given back to the process. So since there is this like translation between these two things anyway, that there is a virtual memory and then the physical memory, then there is no point in limiting the virtual memory to exactly match the physical memory. You can say that you can give the process like 400 GB of memory, and the process would just like do its stuff, and there would be a translation MMU layer anyway. So there is like no point in limiting the size of this memory to a certain size. Like it is fine as it is. You don't need to tell the process that the exact amount of memory that you have physically. So yeah, you can just like tell the process anything, because there is this physical layer anyway in between this MMU. And I think this part of sending the address to MMU happens automatically. And by automatically, I mean the CPU does not intentionally, there is not a assembly command which sends an address to the MMU and gets back the translated address. I think this happens automatically. This is MMU is not like ALU in that case, where the processor sends some calculation and gets back the answer for those calculations. The process of being sent to the MMU and getting translated address back, I think that is automatic. Calling OBS stupid also. Shit. OBS is, I guess, in that case, it is like it does not question what the operating system is telling OBS. Okay. And here, where were we? Shit. Yes, the files are not there. Yep, there is not a single file which begins with the name Walrus on the whole operating system. Okay. Instance.tf. Even though we are putting the files there, and we do know that the files were getting, they might be inside temp. They might like actually be inside temp. Shit. Connection disclose. Oh, nothing is here. I guess if we put the files directly here and not inside temp, that might work. Either these commands are not, no shit, we do need this translation in between, and we cannot put the files directly at this location because the user as which we are SSHing into the machine might not have privileges to put files in the root or at this location. So we can put the files in the user's home directory and then put them there, because I think when we put a file in the temp directory, they are deleted after some time. Maybe there is a delay between putting the files in the temp directory and then moving them to the correct directory. Or second point of failure could be that these commands are just like not running at all. Okay, so let's check theory number 1. That is, files are getting there, but they are getting deleted before we actually put them to the right place. Instance for this evil shit Terraform and instance. Okay, so for this, but yes, pwd, we are inside /home/ubuntu. Cool. So put these files, instead of putting them to temp, put them to /home/ubuntu. Cool. That should work. Let's see if that works. Git push origin main. That will start a workflow. You are saying that this thing looks overwhelming. It would look overwhelming if you are doing all these things at the same time for the first time. But if you first study what is CI/CD in GitHub and then study some basic things in Terraform, or even before that, if you study what is Git, then you move on to what is GitHub, then you study what is CI/CD, then you study what is workflow, then you study what is Terraform, then you study how to put Terraform inside your CI/CD pipeline, and yeah, just step by step, and it is not overwhelming. The operating system builds a fake table for OBS. Operating system does not know. That was the point I was making when I said automatically. Is the OS know about the MMU, memory management unit? Shit. Okay, OS knows. The operating system is intimately aware of the memory management unit and acts as its primary architect. The OS kernel sets up and manages the page tables in MMU. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense because the operating system knows what programs are running, and if it is not in sync with the MMU, how does the MMU know where to translate which address and which process is asking for the translation? Because if the browser, if this Brave browser says I want to access address number 0, and OBS says I want to access address number 0, they point to different physical addresses. So yep, they are in sync. What do you mean fake table? That is the table. That is the table. There is no fake table. There is the table. Okay, this is Terraform is setting up. This will literally create a lot of things. Terraform will create the following local files. Okay, this will not restart the shit. This will not restart the server local, it is only creating the sensitive files, and if the server does not restart, then these commands will not run. And by server, I mean the AWS remote instance. Doesn't create instance when changes made to provisioner. Okay, so the CPU isn't involved in sending the address. Got it. CPU might not be involved. Is that why is the OS making the fake table? If there is no limit, that means the table is needed. Because of the reason that you do not give physical, like when a new program starts OBS and it wants access to the RAM, instead of saying that physical RAM, there is the physical RAM, and in the physical RAM some blocks are free. So one point is the operating system could look at these blocks and tell OBS that you have access to these ranges in the RAM, like begin 1, end 1, begin 1, end 1. Whenever you OBS want to store anything on the RAM, use a address within these ranges, and that is a bit complicated for the process if the process does not have a linear range of RAM which starts from 0 and goes up to 2 GB or something. Instead of that, it is saying there is some random X address till Y1, which is a random address, and use our specific any address within this range. That is a bit complicated. Instead of this, there is MMU. The operating system tells MMU that, or like I think the MMU knows itself that these blocks are free, and the operating system tells OBS you have 400 GB of RAM, do whatever you want with it, and OBS uses a memory address from this virtual RAM, and it is then translated by MMU into the physical RAM, which is much simpler both for the process side and the operating system side. All the heavy load is done or taken up by MMU. It is pretty cool. And Terraform does not automatically recreate instances when provisioner blocks change, because provisioners are designed to run only once during the resource creation, not during updates. To force Terraform taint, use Terraform taint on the resource. Implement triggers in null resource. Terraform taint was this Terraform taint resource name followed by Terraform apply. Manual taint. What is Terraform taint? Terraform taint. Mark a resource instance as fully functional, as not fully functional. Okay, shit. So this command will make the instance not fully functional, and then we will create the resource again. Because that is not very cool. But perform destroy the whole thing, and then shit. To run this, we need the name.com API, name.com API token. And let me hide my screen again for the like 10th time. And not just this shit, not just this will also need the AWS instance private key. So I guess a better option, wait, shit, my screen is not visible. Okay, so I guess a better option would be variables.sh. I will write the variables right here. Export tf var name com API key equals something. Export tf var API secret. No, shit, that is not the thing. There are 3 variables which are required. One, okay, name com username, name com API token. None of these are correct. Token, name com, username, and the last would be tf var. We can go here and look at the variables in the code. Get a workflows cd.yaml. Here, private key sh, private key sh. Okay, and the username is gmail.com, and I will copy and paste here the name.com token. What's a kernel? Kernel is a very low level thing which talks to all the hardware, to your you could say trackpad, to your keyboard, your mouse, and everything, and makes it available to processes which are running at a higher abstraction layer. I mean, also something would have to send MMU the address. You cannot allow the program to send no, the program does not do this. The program, if you go to assembly, you write something in assembly, and if you want to look at some assembly code, AOC, I think, shit, that is not the name. advent of code. Yep, cool. And there was, I think, 2023 day one. Shit, no, 2024 maybe. Yep, cool. Here, if when you write something in assembly, add operations. Where is our move? Store. Yep, and this command is store. Shit, it W3, it takes up whatever is in this register and stores it here. Right. Yep. Stores it to the RAM place whose address is in this X1 register. And yeah, store the numbers in the array. The point is, when you tell the operating system which memory address you want to use, you just give it the address from your virtual memory, and it is then sent to, I think there might be a list of commands, and whenever a program uses any of these commands, then the address is sent to MMU, otherwise it is not. I think there might be something like that. Or it might be that the operating system or the CPU looks at what, wait, shit, whenever you do access RAM, it is done by a syscall. List of instructions for which to send address to MMU, or like who sends address to MMU. The CPU sends the address to MMU, sends the virtual or logical address to memory management unit. Whenever a program runs, the CPU generates this address to access memory, which the MMU then translates to physical layer. Okay. The operating system defines the mapping instructions tables is that tells the memory management unit how to translate virtual addresses to physical ones, while the MMU performs the translation automatically in hardware on every memory access. The MMU performs the translation automatically in hardware on every memory access. So that is pretty cool. This happens automatically. The MMU does it automatically. It relies on information provided by the kernel. The kernel sets up MMU, and then the process of sending an address to MMU and getting the actual physical address happens automatically. Yep, it does. Big size table is not needed. Wait, there is a very cool video you can watch about this by Core Dumped George. Virtual memory. Yep, this one. Wait. Yes, this video. This is cool. 14 minutes long. You can watch this. And back to this. I have to get the name.com token and also the AWS private SSH key, which, where is the key? Yes, it is somewhere. And okay, I will hide my screen. I leaked my address. No, I did not leak my address. And AWS private key. Let me also get the AWS private key. Then I will re-show my screen. Wait. One more minute. Let me just the bank. Okay, cool. I can show my screen now. Cool. Yep. And hopefully you don't see anything. Chmod change permissions for variables.sh. Okay, I do not want to take the risk. I will just hide my screen and then run this script. And this script simply adds these variables to the environment. Variables.sh. Cool. It did not do any harm. It did not print anything on the screen, so that is cool. So I just got a job as fast as possible, please. So it is easier for me to, okay, I will do my best to get a job for you, I guess. Destroy everything. And shit, there is a log. Force a log, and the log ID is this. Yep, remove the log. Terraform destroy everything. Why is it asking for name.com API token? This should not be asking for name.com API. Let me hide my screen again because I will open that script. I will open my script. Wait. Variables.sh tfr name.com API token. tfr name.com username. The screen is hidden, but wait. Variables.sh. Run this manually. Cool. Okay, now it is done. I had to run these things, run the commands manually. Okay, now Terraform destroy everything. This should not ask shit. There is a log. Force log ID is this, and yep, Terraform destroy. Yep, it did not ask for the keys. I like studying theory a lot more, like doing dev stuff, because it is a lot more slow and burn, and you don't have to invent something new. Wait, so that is cool. It depends on how much. Okay, public key. Okay, shit, this was public key. I thought, shit, I messed up. Yep, remove everything. I think list of commands that you're talking about. Open close. It stores open close. List of commands for which the address is sent. I think whenever CPU okay, so there is your CPU and there is your RAM. there are, let's say, a bus. A bus is a collection of, you could say, wires which could have a value of 0 or 1 depending on depending on the voltage on them. So there is bus number 1, which is a, this is not a single wire, this is a, well, this is a single wire, but this has multiple lines, you could say, in it. And let's say it has 64 lines on it, bus number 1. And then there is bus number 2, and I guess then there could be a bus number 3. This is also 64 bits, and this is, I guess, let's just say 1 bit. This is very simplified, and I guess this is also wrong uh, because of the simplification, but fine, oversimplified, fine. So this bus number 2 has data, this bus number 1 has address, and this tells the RAM whether to write this data which is on bus number 2 or to read. Shit, I messed up. Whether to write this data or read this data. So if this bit, I guess, if let's say if it is on, if this bit is on, then this data which is here in bus number 2 is written at the address which is specified by bus number 1, and these are just like wires. So cool. RAM looks at the address, the data, and the bit. If it is on, then RAM writes this data onto this address, and if the bit is off, then RAM reads whatever the data is at this address and puts it in this bus, and it is bus number 2 goes back to CPU. But I guess in case of MMU, this step of this address going from bus number 1 to RAM, there is in the middle the MMU or something like this. So for the translation, using the list of commands, when okay, everything was destroyed. Everything was destroyed. Terraform apply everything. Yep, do all this. That will take some time to do. It is getting certificates and everything. And in the last stream, I only leaked the private key for the certificate, and after destroying Terraform and then restarting, it would give me a new private key, which is cool. Okay, this is making the thing. Let's do type eraser. It is like quick smoke. Okay, it is creating a certificate in 1969. Shit. Okay, that was very bad. That was actually very bad, very bad. and shit. No such file or directory. What is the name of the files? walrus.codes.cert, 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 crt, walrus. Mm, no such file or directory. No such file or directory. walrus.codes.cert, walrus.codes.cert. walrus.codes.cert, walrus.codes.cert. No file or no file, no file. I think this depends on the path. walrus walrus.codes.cert. No such file or directory. File provisioner error. I mean, this is much better than getting no error and this thing not working at the end. Terraform file path. File path relative, and these are relative to the current configuration. Makes sense. Path module, file name, source path module, local path / scripts, default system paths. Wait, so relative path, these are relative to the current Terraform directory where your .tf files are. Okay, so this should work. The path is correct. The path is correct. .walrus.codes.crt .walrus.codes.crt. If we do Terraform plan now that we do have the files, but wait, shit, why is it creating all these name.com? Because it will create a new instance. Replaced. Okay, the last must be replaced, and there is no reason why. Okay, cool. And we do know that the files do exist right now. That is pretty cool. And if we go to name.com, the last IP, the DNS services should also be updated. Destroying, this is destroying the last instance, my domains, walrus.codes, DNS records, creating a new instance, and yep, all the DNS records are gone. Cool. This will create new DNS records, name.com record. And I guess this would also get certificates. No, this would not get the certificates because certificates do not belong to the instance, but they belong to the domain name. Cool. This did ran. Password false, private key true. Key connected, and everything was done. Okay, so if we do sh, this is not the right place. IP address walrus.codes. What is the IP address? Latest IP address. We can look at it here. walrus.codes. DNS records. Cool. yes, ssh cool cd cd etc cd sl ls ls certs grep walrus, and let's go. Shit. Okay, the certificates are here, and sudo docker ps. Yes, of course. Shit. Yes, nothing is running on docker because that is done by GitHub workflows, and yeah, it has not happened. Exit. That was not very good. But there is still the problem that the file was created later on, and the provisioner which created the file did not have access to the file because it was not created by them. I'm creating a few files using local files provider in Terraform, and then using them inside file provisioner in AWS instance. But when doing this for the first time, the files are not created for the AWS instance runs. How to create the files first and then run the instance. It use depends on. Okay, shit, that is pretty cool. Use depends on in this depends on local file dot cert. Wait, dot my cert waits for the files to be created. Okay, shit, that's pretty good. Local file dot my cert. Okay, shit, that is like pretty good. Files local sensitive file walrus certificate. Here we can say depends on like this. Yep, it depends on ECM certificate. Nope. Local sensitive file dot walrus certificate and walrus key SHA walrus certificate, SHA walrus key, and backend. And now we can destroy everything. Terraform destroy. Yep, that is just the public key. And like by mistake, a few minutes ago, I did leak my private AWS key .sh keygen help create RSA key. Yep, SSH key and target RSA. target RSA, create it, and slash users walrus slash dot sh slash AWS overwrite. Yep, overwrite the already existing one, no password. Cool. And that did destroy everything. Okay. Yep. So we have to now update the key on AWS server. AP South AMI's key pairs. Yep. Key pairs server key. How import key pair. Delete this. Delete this key. Delete. Import key pair. Key name. Terraform key and the file. Browse. You won't be able to see the file. It is. Yep, it is inside a hidden folder. So shit. Copy the public key. Yep, we have to copy the key pair file. Key pair file, choose the browser and your public key. Yep. I just have to paste my public key. Copy slash AWS dot pub to this home. AWS dot pub. Cool. Import key. Cool. And we also have to make change on GitHub. Yep. Secrets, actions. SSH key, rewrite the SSH key. The new value would be cd.sh cp bp pb command to copy to clip board on Mac cp pb copy. Pb copy. So cat AWS and copy it to pb copy. Okay, and now I will hide my screen again. And the private key is there. Pretty cool. Cool. cd terraform and terraform destroy everything. Everything has been destroyed. Okay, there is nothing to destroy. Makes sense. cd chess git add or git status shade rm infra variables.sh. Cool. Now cool. Git add git diff. The difference is, yep, we added this. It depends on and git add git commit git push origin main. That should work. That did work, and that started a new action. That did start a new action. And yep, I'll go to the washroom and I'll be right back. Till then, you can look at the log. Cool. And I'm back. Cool. Pretty cool. Okay. This is pushing the image onto Docker Hub. Okay. Cool. Okay. Okay. This job is done. Now the next job, pull and run. And if this does not fail, that would be very cool. Initializing the backend. Okay. This is setting up. Yep. Terraform has been initialized. Now, why does it say set Terraform outputs? Yep, it will create the server and everything on Terraform. That is cool. cd Terraform. Wait, no. cd. Workflows. Yep. And in cd.yaml. Set outputs. Yep. There is a single output, not much. There is only one output. Okay, this is creating the AWS instance. Provisioning with file, still creating. Sensitive files were created, still creating. AWS instance, still creating. I think this is putting the files onto the instance, the certificates. But why is it taking this long? Okay, this is taking quite long. I don't think it should take this much. Local sensitive files. Creation completed for this file, So this did create all the files. Walrus certificate. Creation completed for Walrus key. Creation completed for Walrus certificate. And this instance is still creating. Creation completed for Walrus key certificate, and completed for backend also. Okay, this is taking quite long to create the instance. I guess that is fine. That is totally fine. Maybe south instances, we would have one instance which is initializing. Okay. The instance is initializing, that is taking time, but fine. We don't have nothing much to do after this. This was the only problem that we wanted to solve. Putting the certificates on the AWS instance. And in the meantime, we can do some type racer. But shit, no. I just got destroyed in type racer. Okay, this is still trying to create the instance. The instance is created. It is just initializing. Okay. Okay, I don't know if this is like stuck somewhere. This thing depends on a few files being created, which were created. Already 3 minutes, 10 seconds have been elapsed. And it is on the file command. Terraform and instances. This depends on all these files being created, which they were. Nope. Depends on waits for the files to be created first, which we did. So instead of depends on, you can directly reference the file name. Oh, shit. We don't have to give the file name here. We can say, instead of this, local sensitive file dot walrus certificate dot file name. Okay, shit, that is pretty cool. That is like actually pretty cool. And the same for all these. Local sensitive file walrus key file name. Yep. Local sensitive file dot the walrus certificate file name, and local sensitive file walrus key name file name. Local sensitive file backend walrus key no certificate dot file name tool. Backend walrus key name. Cool. And are we still stuck? We are still stuck. File provisioner error. Connection refused. Makes sense. Makes sense. Connection because the port is different. For the connection, the port is different. Phone is running out of battery. Laptop is running. See, how can we give in the port here also? I guess we should be able to give a port here. 401. Let's see. Terraform plan. Is this okay? It seems to be okay. We can give in the port. Push origin main. Yep. Push. This will start a new action. Yep. This will take about 1.5 minutes. And we'll wait. Connection refused. Connection refused makes sense. Connection refused makes too much sense. We changed the public key here just now a few minutes ago, but you also have to we changed the private key, this SSH key, but you also have to change the public key, which and what is the URL for that? Secret access key? No. How are we giving in the public key? Instance key name AWS key. Yep, the public key is here. We have to change this. AWS dot pub pb copy. Okay, shit. I did not leak my public key, it seems. My private key. Cool, it is cool. Okay. Yeah. Now it should work. Or shit, why Terraform, and why does this thing have to be here like this? I can make it a variable var dot sh public, make it a variable var sh public key, and go to workflows and cd.yaml, and here, yep, df var public key sh public key, and what was the name that we used there? Sh public key. Cool. So sh public key, and we just have to add it as a secret here now. Sh public key, and the public key is this. Cool. Add secret. This will be available to the actions in this. That is a lot of changes, and shit, the instance is still creating. Cancel this workflow. We request the workflow to be cancelled, and okay, shit, it just does not cancel at the time that you do cancel it. Cool. Now I think it is cool. Let's see. Yep, we removed it from there, and we added sh public key, which we do have to add as a variable. Variables.tf. Cool. sh public key, that is the name, and sensitive id string. We push origin main. That will start another workflow. cd, yep. Push images. This is like, shit, this is very slow, and this happens always. This will run always. There's no way to stop this step from running. This will build the images and push them. Escalate raw. We can do type eraser in the meantime for like 30 seconds. Shit, this has been there for since 2008, since YouTube. Shockwave. YouTube came out in 2006. Start a race. We are almost done with this. Almost okay. And that was fine. Okay, shit. There is error. Terraform changes. Why there is a lock? Shit. Should have known. ID is this. Terraform force unlock with this ID. Yep, unlock. Cool. And rerun jobs. Rerun failed jobs. Yep, rerun this failed job. Yep. Pull and run. And this will take time. This will take time to create a new instance. This will take time. Yep, this will take time. There was also a red replaced fingerprint AWS key. Okay, shit. This will create a new. No, this will replace the key. That makes sense. That makes sense. Public key, sensitive value. Cool. Instance is creating with file. We created all the files, and this is the thing which takes time. It took like 3 minutes the last time we did this. So yep. Wait, why are there two servers running at the same time? Shit. There are two servers running. That makes sense because we cancelled the last workflow while it was running. It created a new server and it must not have been updated on the like log files that a new server is created. Workflow request has been sent. That is cool. And Terraform force unlock destroy. There is a lock. Force unlock and ID is this. Wait. Yep, this was cancelled. Cool. Yep. Destroy and now Terraform destroy. And also yep, destroy. Destruction complete of TLS private key. AWS security group, but not of AWS instance. Internet gateway is still destroying. The instance is still there. Makes sense. Still destroying. Okay, okay. It takes quite a bit to destroy. Still destroying. It would be a bit cool if I could listen to music while streaming, but uh, there is no music. This is taking time because AWS takes time. Terraform has informed AWS to destroy this. It is just AWS which is taking time. Windows Server is taking 1 GB. OBS is cool. Wait, hello. I have a very bad week. Yeah, doesn't know what to do. JE result broke me. Shit. Okay, your JE result came, it broke you, but that is fine. Like, be sad for a while, but then restart. And by restart, I don't mean just go after JE, take a drop or something, but like consider your options and decide whether to take a drop or to take admission in any college and start studying CS instead of taking a drop. Shit, okay, you are a dropper. So what is your rank? Not rank, but what is your percentile? You are a dropper. Hmm. I mean, shit, I don't like drop personally because instead of studying, spending 1 year to get to a nice college, you can just, yo, bro is going hard. Yep, he took a drop. 90%. Shit, that is quite a jump. 90 percentile. That is cool. So, like, what were you expecting? 90 is cool. 90 is cool. Mine was less than 90. So, 90 is cool. You can get to a tier 3 college, maybe even tier 2, but it's like, yep, certainly not IIT. 90. You can get a nice branch, but yep, now you can be sad for a while and then get back to, I would say you should start programming and get get started in programming. What could you do? Shit, why is this thing taking so long to destroy? Shit, that is just easy. Security group is still destroying, still destroying, still destroying. AI prices are going high. Yep, they are going high because the cost for running all that is very high. And there is this awesome. Yep, there is this person, awesome, and yeah, he says that to run an AI center, it is very expensive to run an AI center. You need a lot of water and a lot of money, and yeah, a lot of stuff to do that. Okay. Yes, yes, I'm doing these for free. Like, who would I ask for money? Right? And also the quality of these streams is also not very good. So yep, I couldn't. No one would pay. What is the best way to land an internship in 6 months? I know the fundamentals of MoinStack, JS, Prisma, Postgres, but don't know what to do now. Should I create projects or contribute? Yes, both would be cool, but also I don't know how to get an internship. I myself would get an internship if I knew. Yep, it is now. It is M4 Air, my laptop, and shit, this is taking more than it should. Security group, security groups, and SSH, security group, network interface, elastic IPs, placement groups, shared placements. We have placements here. It is taking so much time to destroy the. Okay, now it is destroying the subnet, the security group, and the internet gateway. Where do we see the internet gateway? VPC, VPC, VPC. Yes, VPC, isolated cloud resources. I think it would be fine to delete them manually. Or VPCs. Yep, my VPCs. Okay, all of them are here. So just select all and destroy them manually. Delete. Okay, button is not working. This one delete. Okay, cool. You can delete them one by one. Delete VPC. Okay, that did not take long. We should be able to destroy them together, but okay, shit, we cannot destroy them together. Unable to delete. Your VPC cannot be deleted unless the following actions are VPC contains one or more instances. Okay, so I guess let's destroy the instances first and then the VPCs. No, I'm not rich. Is there a thing called local stack? Okay, and there is a thing called local stack. Nope, I have not tried local stack. Everyone around me constantly saying to watch and to switch to OBSC or BCom. I want to. Okay, I want to do CSE, but I don't know what is the way. Should be through tier 3. Everyone just bad mouthing them. Yep, I am also in a tier 3 college. But I guess if you have skills and you start in your first year, you should be able to get a job. But the thing is, you will start your BTech now in 2026 and you will end in 2030. So, and by then, I don't know how things would look like. It would be even crazier. DeepSeek V4 is going crazy out there. We might be able to build cloud methods from scratch. Shit. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I have a friend in IIT. I don't know if I were to compare myself. That is the thing. I don't know how real good people, how good real people are who work in industry. So, like, I cannot say if I am like good enough to get a job or not. I'm just doing things here. Yo, let's go. Yep, tier 3 majority. Mm. Destroy, terminate, instance settings. Am I blind or there is no terminate option? actions instance state. Okay, terminate is here. Can I select all? Okay, only the ones which are not terminated. Yep, these two are running. Instance state, terminate, delete instances. Yep, terminate instances, terminate instances. Okay, instances have been terminated. Now we can delete the VPCs, which is taking so long here to do. It has already been 11 minutes here. Yo, thank you for that. For campus placement, minus tier 3. It is more like a tag now. It is, but my friend who is in IIT, he has internship in Bangalore, and he has not even went to Bangalore to start his internship. He has already received 1 lakh rupees for the relocation for living there. So like, yes, that is because of IIT. So yeah, there is a thing. Same here, but who cares about campus placement? Yep, campus placements are shit. Okay, destroy the VPN error occurred. Okay, shit. Now everything is destroyed. Okay, cool. Just for reassurance, Terraform destroy. It is asking for SSH public key. Why is it asking for SSH public key? It is asking. Yes, it is asking. Yeah, fine. Now, cool. We just have to start Terraform apply, and it will ask for SSH public key. AWS.pub. This is the public key which we can. You can look at this. This has not. I have not leaked anything, even though this is open SSH private key, because I have changed the private key and public key pair, so you cannot do anything with this. This is the old one. And shit, which just makes me remember that shit, I have to do this export thing again with the new key. Shit. API token on name.com is same as it was. Export df var. It is asking for SSH public key equals this. Not valid in this context, because this is treating this space as the end of the last command, and this thing as an argument to this export command. So yep, export df var sh public key equals copy paste. That works. And then we can just bash test.sh, and also is bash test.sh echo f var sh public key, and if we don't see anything, shit, cat test.sh, and run this command manually, and then do the echo, and now we do see the public key. Public key is there, and public key is there. Name.com API is there. Private key, we have to update the private key. Yep, we have to update the private key, for which I will have to hide my screen. Yep, and to copy anything we can do cat AWS space bb copy. This will copy whatever is given to this command and copy the thing to the clipboard. If I were to create a file, echo hello, make a file, file dot txt, and then cat file dot txt and pb, pass this pb copy hello. We got hello was copied to the clipboard. And if we do the same with AWS pb copy, the private key, which I do not want to show, is copied. Now I will hide my screen. Test.sh, and yes, the screen is hidden. Just 1 minute. What's the name of the private key? Shit. SSH private key, I think. Private key SSH. That is not the private key, that is the public key. Cool. Just 1 minute, wait. Cool. Okay. Now I can show my screen, which is cool. Okay, you are in your second sem. Yeah, it is cool. Like, start studying, it would be cool. Like a day before yesterday, I made my own version of Vercel. That is cool. That can pull my Git repo from GitHub using WebSockets and then launch it using PM2 on my VPS and update it whenever I do. That is pretty cool. So there is either a cron job, WebSocket. You use WebSocket for this. Your Vercel pulls the code from GitHub using a WebSocket. I don't think you need a WebSocket. You can just get, if you just want to get the code, you can just get the code, WebSocket even. Okay, shit. If what I'm thinking is what you did, that would be crazy. I think you made, wait, shit. I think you have established a WebSocket connection with GitHub, and whenever there is a pull request, GitHub provides or sends a message on your side of the WebSocket, and whenever there is like a pull request made, you would know because you have a WebSocket connection which runs 24/7. The server is using Express. Shit. So you have a WebSocket connection running 24/7, and whenever there is a commit on GitHub tells you, and then you just update the code and run it using PM2. Shit, that is cool. But uh, having a WebSocket which is running 24/7 is a bit crazy. If that is what you did, if you have a WebSocket connection running 24/7, what could be the alternatives? I don't know. Terraform destroy. This would not ask for any variables. It does not. Terraform plan. Okay. Terraform. That will work. the certificate was there before, like that. Okay, that's fine. Git add everything, git commit, this should work, this should work. Git push origin main, this should work. Okay, that will start a workflow here. This will build and push the images, which is very expensive in terms of time. 1 hour, 1 minute and 30 seconds. It is already 7 p.m. That is crazy. Okay, if this works, that would be cool. But if this does not work, if there is some error, then I will stop the stream and we will restart the stream later at night, and we will finish this thing. And the main goal of this stream was we had everything set up using Terraform. The only thing we didn't have was Terraform was not able to put the certificates onto the remote AWS instance, and it should be cool now after this. I hope that this would work. I think that this would work. I will not bet money, but I think this would work. Yep, this should work. 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 And also my phone is going to die. It was not too good. Okay, pull and run, and this is lagging. This is actually lagging. Changes. This will take some time. Phone is still not charging. Okay, cool. Provisioning. Yep, and this step takes time. This step takes time. It took like 3 minutes the last time this happened. Wilson, wait, what? Yep, what can be better way of doing this? Open, yes. Hello, share, you changed your things. Right now you are using your actual name. Hello, Cynthia Wilson. What is the reference? And a better way to do this, I think, how are notifications sent on a phone? Sent on my phone is for WhatsApp. Is there a server listening on my phone all the time, and the WhatsApp backend just pings it whenever there is a message, or is there a ongoing never ending WebSocket connection using which WhatsApp backend notifies. I think the second option might actually be true, a WebSocket connection, because having a server is not very secure. having a server running on your phone is not very secure. Neither share it is a third option. Okay, I guess we have to think outside the box. There is a third option called push notifications. Okay, shit, this is running, we'll get back to this. There is a third option called push notifications. We are the OS, how it works. Your phone's OS, Android or iOS maintains a single always on persistent connection to a central push server. Android, Firebase cloud messaging, or Apple has Apple push service. There is one connection shared across all apps. It keeps alive by the OS at low level, surviving even when the apps are killed. The workflow for WhatsApp message. The sender sends the message. The WhatsApp backend knows that there was a message sent from person A to person B, and then the backend tells, if you are on Android or iOS, to your specific push notification server, and your phone's OS knows, and it notifies WhatsApp. Someone sends you a message, lands on WhatsApp backend servers. WhatsApp backend calls the push notification servers, notify this device that there is a new message. Okay, why not WebSocket? Because yep, battery draining and all that. Okay, so there is a thing called actually crazy stuff. You're talking to the operating system. Is I mean, yeah, shit, your messages are getting censored. Cool. Yep, SSE, server side. What is SSE? Software server side security service edging. Design and building software to minimize carbon. Wait, you are worried about your carbon emission? Okay. These two jobs ran successfully, and if this works, it does not work, or it is just taking time. This is much better than connection refused or anything else. Loading is much better. We can go to name.com and see the actual IP address. Shit, server sent event. Okay, that makes sense. I don't think it is a carbon emission. Yes, it is not the carbon emission one. Site cannot be reached. Connection refused. Docker PS. Okay, these are running Docker logs for Nginx production. No such file or directory at this place. Okay, shit. etc SSL ls grep wait ls cert, yes, certificates. We'll look for folders. Okay, the certificates are there. The certificates are the problem is this configuration. We have to remove Nginx, and then this would work. Substitute Nginx and slash SSL with SSL. Okay, the certificates are going onto the remote instance. It is just shit, we do have to destroy the instance and recreate it because the Nginx configuration. Shit, okay, shit. The files, the certificates which we are putting onto the remote machine, they are going onto the remote machine, which is pretty cool. But this Nginx that is running, it is not running on the remote machine. On the remote machine, there is a Docker container inside which Nginx is running. So we have to mount all these certificates onto the container so that they are accessible by the container, for which we have to update our script which runs these containers. The script which is in which is it. Yep. This is the script docker sh. Yep. This removes all the things, and this is the script which starts all the things. So we have to mount a few things for this Nginx server. I think v is the command. V slash source from where and to where slash etc mount the thing which is at slash etc ssl to share. Okay, yes, we don't have to mount the all the things manually. We can do this in one go. Okay, cool. I think this should work. Or we can go even more specific than this. cert. Cool. And just let's look at the Nginx configuration. Yep, the certificate is here. If cert is the name where the certificates are downloaded, we can look it up here. Certs, CERTS, not CERT. Okay, change that in the configuration. CERTS. Okay, and the same change. Substitute SSL. SSL. When it has this, yep, substitute this with SSL slash CERTS. That should work. The certificate is at slash etc slash SSL slash certs, and workflows. And we are mounting on, yep, CERTS, and here also CERTS. That should work. I think that should work. If it does not work, I don't know. Object handling. Express.js, it has the best style for. Wait, it has the best. Shit. You notice shuttering in your interface as in like how you look at the world, your physical interface. Git add all of this. Git. Is this going to work? I think this is going to work. Okay, we can look it up. let's see. Okay, and this is like the final try, and I will stop the stream after this if this does not work, because I have to go someplace. And yep, and this will take long because this will recreate the images, which takes long. And shoot, this will not work. No, this will work. Yep, the certificates are already there. This will work. This will work. Yep, you do not have to stop the instance and recreate a new one. This should work. This should work. This should work. See, and do a race in the meantime. Yep, it will take quite some time. Looking for opponents. Stan is here. That was not too good. Okay, pull and run. Check out. This is initializing Terraform. Okay. There should not be any problem with this, at least. This should not be problem with anything. Yep, there should not be any problem anywhere. Yep. Local sensitive files. Yep. Setting Terraform outputs. Cool. We have SSH'd into the server. Yep. Pulling the latest images. We are pulling the latest images. Quite fast. Shit. Wait, my stream is not mute. The stream is not mute. Okay. Bye. Like, see you later. I can notice my mouse icon not having smoother animation and is cut off my laptop or Linux. It might be that your laptop is under quite a bit of load, possibly. Okay, this is pulling and downloading the latest images. Maybe turn off everything else that you are not using right now. Okay, this is starting up new images, starting up the new containers. Cool. Oh, and also still downloading some of the rest of the containers. Okay, cool. That was cool. That did run. We can SSH. Okay, what is Docker I? Docker PS. If we see Nginx production server running, that would be cool. And we do see Nginx production server running, and it is trying to restart. It is restarting. Docker Nginx run no such file or directory certs. Okay. Docker piece. Okay, it is trying to restart, and there are no volumes. We should be seeing the volumes that we put here. Scripts volume. Yep, and this volume mount this /etc/ssl certs at this location. this thing /etc ssl certs, and this thing does not exist. Let's go into the container docker exec interactive tty into nginx prod and run sh. Error response. This is restarting. Docker stop nginx production. Docker ps a docker start nginx production. Okay. Docker ps restarting. Okay, it is still not able to find the files. Docker stop nginx production. Docker remove nginx production. Okay. Docker run in detached mode. I guess we have to give in ports. Shit, you cannot hear me. Hello, my voice is going there. I can see it here. My voice is going there. Maybe something is wrong with your mic because the voice is going there. I'm going from my side. Docker psp name makes sense. Name and 80 and 443. Nginx production port is 80, mount to 80, and port 443, mount to port 443, forwarding, and v/etc/c/ssl/certs, mount this onto /etc/ssl/certs. And the name of the image is shared. Shit, I have to relearn the command. Docker run -d name nginx. This is one port 443, another port v/etc/ssl certs, mount this onto /ssl certs nginx prod. Unable to find image. Okay. Docker image ls. Makes sense. The name of the image is different. Shit. Docker run in detached mode. Name nginx production port 80 to 80, port 443, volume /etc/ssl and certs, mount this onto /etc/ssl certs, and the image GETINRAGHAV 137 -nginx prod. Okay. Docker ps a docker logs for nginx production. No such file or directory. Cannot load certificate. This shit. Okay, because this is not com. Okay, there is a mismatch in the names. We will fix it in the next stream, and for now this would be it. We have made quite some progress, I guess. We just have to fix a few things and then everything would be okay, hopefully. And that would be it for now, and thank you for being here.